Good morning, friends. It's Sunday again. I like that. Like, is that like our catchy little
It's
like
Sunday
jingle?
again. Yeah, I think.
Ooh,
Did we just jingle?
I think we
I
did just jingle.
I think we jingled.
Um, how is everyone doing this morning? Mars, how are you? I know we've been talking backstage, but how are you?
Good, weird. It's Sunday morning. I don't know. Somebody on Instagram, I think it was Sheena the Geek, mentioned that our show on Sunday mornings is like going to church, and that put me on like cloud nine because I'm like, let us be your comic book communal church here. I don't know. It just made me feel giddy. It's like we're part of your Sunday routine. So everybody who is here on this lovely Sunday morning, thank you and welcome to our sermon.
And let us pray. I'm just
And
kidding.
let us pray.
Um, um, I really appreciate that. I think Sheena, I saw Sheena in the chat earlier, so thank you so much for that. That's like I love that so much. We've got a lot of people in the chat. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and go through and say hello to some people, and of course, first one here, always, forever and
First
always,
one.
our friend Travis. Thank you so much for being here, Travis. I've been checking the because I sent you a box and hopefully it should be there Tuesday, I think was the day. And then Sheena, there she is. Then okay, and then we've got Dylan. Dylan, we were just talking about you backstage. All good things, of course.
Can I just make a comment about
Yes.
Sheena's username? Because every time I see it, I know it says HK Wifey 420, but whenever I see it, for some reason my brain associates it to Hawkeye Wifey 420. So there it is. I guess you're just the wifey of Hawkeye. Congrats,
Hawkeye
Sheena.
wifey. I love that. I'm always gonna think of that. John's Comics with Kids, morning gang. John's channel is like my Saturday morning church. I absolutely love it. Sometimes like I'm at work and I'm like, okay, I can only watch this on my 15 and then have to catch it on the replay, but I love John's channel. And then can we please talk about how Marvel and DC are taking the likenesses of awesome YouTube personality and turning them into characters? I think you're referring to uh, us being Big Barda and Miracle Molly. Is that what we're referring to?
I'll take being Big Barda. I don't know if I'd want to be Big Barda as much as I want to be with Big Barda. I feel like there is a significant difference. I can't be with myself because then things just get a little weird.
I don't think so. I 100% see it. And then we've got Oregon. Good morning from Oregon, here in Portland. Part of the Portland crew. Wonder if the cat wrangler is going to be on this time. He totally is. Like I don't know if y'all can like see
Fun
him.
fact, I got to spend some special backstage time with Luna this morning and it was amazing.
He's such a weirdo. He kept me up all this morning, but all right. And then good morning to DaCosta. Thank you for being here. Looking through everyone's chats. I'm really trying not to miss anyone. Good morning, John.
It makes me so excited that
John
we have
West.
so many people because I always get nervous in the morning when we do morning shows that people don't want to show up this early because I'm not a morning person. Like, listen, I want to sleep until 10, 11 o'clock and we're doing an early show this morning. So I was like, we're going to miss a bunch of people, but we've got a great crowd this morning. It's really amazing. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Oh, come on, man. I feel like, I don't know, man, it sticks. It kind of feels kind of cool, but kind of creepy in a way.
Hallelujah. Praise be. Oh my goodness. I love y'all so much.
Y'all are great.
DJ Lings, thank you so much for being here. And I think I said, Fable, good morning. And then, hey again, Sheena. And then, hello, Banshee Queen. I've been up since 6:30. I'm on my second bowl of cereal. Ooh.
Well, that sounds good. Now I want some granola.
Ooh, that sounds so good. What's everyone having for breakfast? That's what I want to know in the chats. What's everyone having for breakfast? Good morning, Chris. Oh my goodness. And then Kal-El, 83. Hello, Jennifer and Mars. First time watching.
From Belgium.
Oh,
Belgium. Belgium.
What time is it there, friend? Obviously not like it's probably like midday there, I think. And then hello, G Spot, how are you doing? Okay, oh my goodness, I really feel bad. I think I'm missing people, but hello, Legion of Comics. And then it's noon for Travis because he's on in Canada on the like East Coast. Oh my goodness, it keeps and then James Perez just finished time zones. Time zones are wild. It's just finished lunch. Time zones are weird.
Facts.
Oh my goodness, the chat keeps moving. So I'm
Time
so
is
sorry.
time is just made up. It's a concept and it's all made up.
It really is. If quarantine has taught me anything, that's exactly what it is. So let's go ahead. I'm so sorry if I missed anyone in the chats, because it kept like moving on me. But I know that you're all probably ready to
Talk comics.
talk comics
That's
casually,
why we're here.
casually
Casually
chat
talking
about
about comics.
doing the thing. There has been like a little bit of news this week, and I feel like we were talking about it backstage and just all the I think bullshit. I call bullshit on a lot of it, but
see, this is where we have varying opinions, and we
yeah,
may need new co-hosts by the end of the show. So stay tuned. We'll throw
maybe.
auditions.
Yeah. I mean Luna's here, so but the first thing that I know that we kind of disagree on
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that Marvel is now separating from Diamond Distributing. So for anyone who's not like too familiar with like this lingo, Diamond is the distributor of comics here in the US. They've been like the dominant force for decades. Earlier in May?
Literally at the beginning of quarantine,
At the
DC
beginning,
separated.
DC separated, and I think a lot of comic book stores were like, what? From my perspective, I felt like a lot of comic book stores are like, why is DC doing this? And I think what DC also did when they split is that they formed two separate distribution companies, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. And one of them was secretly Midtown Comics, which has a huge online presence, has a huge like in-store presence in New York. So they're like, you're telling me I'm getting comics straight from my competitor, and now they're going to have advertisements. And so that was just some bullshit. And then they were like, okay, well, now you have to, as a comic book store, you have to order separately. You also have to, like, comics are coming out on Tuesday for DC when it's like on Wednesdays we read comics, folks. Like, Wednesday is New Comic Book Day, and DC's here to just be like, screw you, like, it's
Fuck it.
Tuesday now.
And not only that, but then DC, when they did their separation with Midtown or did their separation and went to a distribution role with Midtown Comics, first of all, that's like going to the Amazon of the comic book industry, because Midtown Comics is like the biggest competitor for small town comics. Not only that, but DC literally pulled the rug out from under shops so quick and did it within the span of a month. Whereas
and whenever things were going, like, it was like all of a sudden everything was shutting down. Comic book stores that are literally running on like paper thin margins in some cases are like, what the fuck just happened? You're literally putting in more work for them. So
exactly. So DC jumped off the train, and they did it so fast, whereas Marvel, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on, Marvel is giving shops a little bit more of a leeway time. So I like that. But again, with DC, so not only did DC break off with Diamond and go through a distribution factor with Midtown, but then only about 6 months into it, they were like, well, we're switching things up again, and they decided they were going to distribute through Lunar. I don't know if it's because things with Midtown were not working, if it was because there was such a blowback with shops, because it got to the point where I saw a lot of shops threatening to pull DC Comics from their stores. There were shops talking about how they were going to expand their Marvel sections, they were going to expand their kids sections, their indie sections, and drop DC altogether. And it's like, this is insane. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that Diamond is the root of all evil when it comes to comic books. Yeah. Because if you did not know, as somebody who has worked in a comic book shop, and Jen has also worked in a comic book shop, Marvel and DC Comics initially had a 100-year contract with Diamond distributors. That is
I didn't know
fucking
that.
That is fucking insane. That is a monopoly on the market. And I think that because, and Image might be the same way as well, but I think that because there was this 100-year monopoly contract from the two big guns, it almost pressured all other indie comic publishers to distribute through Diamond, because it's like, well, if mommy and daddy are doing it, we got to follow in their footsteps. So,
and, with that, I don't know. I feel like when Marvel announced this, I'm like, really, are you kidding me? Because it felt like a blow to comic book stores. But I do, because they're waiting till October to do it, so they're not like as much sweeping underneath the rug.
exactly.
But
and it's also too that Marvel is, rather than distributing with, I mean, it's still a competitor in a way. Rather than going with somebody like Midtown Comics, Marvel is going with Random House Publishing, and this is where I kind of agree with where they're going. Maybe not in the way that they do it, but I do agree with the ultimate end of it. I believe that going with something like Random House Publishing is going to be a way to get more comics into the direct hands of consumers, because we see in bookstores graphic novel sales are booming. They're huge.
Yep.
And that's where they're thriving, is in these collected editions. And now it's going to offer the idea for shops like this to carry periodicals as well on top of collected editions. So I like the idea of being able to get comics into the hands of more people. To me, this almost looks like comics are getting so much bigger. And it's exploding, for lack of a better word, which to me, that makes me happy, because, my tagline is comics are for everyone. So if I can get comics in the hands of everybody, then I'm all for it. But I also feel, and I feel like maybe there is a little bit more help. Like, I feel like Random House and Marvel is working directly with smaller shops to help sort of transition them into this new Hatchet and Random House distribution. Whereas DC Comics was just like, all right, we did the thing. Fuck it. You're on your own, guys. Figure it out yourselves.
Yeah. And like I said, right in the middle of the pandemic. And I think, granted, when I take a look at the two companies and how I think that they're doing, like, obviously I think Marvel is being propped up by like Disney and maybe has a little bit more cash flow, where, what is it, AT&T who kind of like owns DC, and that to me is not like a success story right now. So
no, it is not.
Yeah. Fable does ask a pretty good question. Do you guys think that indies are able to prop up Diamond? I love indies, and I feel like I single-handedly almost, like, because I buy like every fucking indie that I can.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I'm single-handedly like just keeping indie, not keeping them afloat, but I feel like I buy
you are
so
though
many.
With how many covers you buy and the dumb bitch money that is spent. Absolutely, Jen is at least 10% of the independent market right now. Yeah. I think that they could, just because there are so many, and we look at like sales from Image, we look at sales from sales from Boom right now. But I also have a feeling that indie publishers might be exploring another distribution site as well, because again, it comes back to the mommy and daddy are doing it. So maybe now we can sort of do it, and they're going to follow in the footsteps.
So Scout did recently say that. Scout recently split from Diamond, and they're using DC's publisher. I think that they said that they're using Lunar as well. So I don't know when that's going to start. And granted, like, I have a soft place in my heart, soft spot in my heart, whatever it is. There's a place in my heart for Scout Comics, even though their quality is sometimes inconsistent. I think that they are some really cool folks over there at Scout Comics, and I do like some of the stories, but sometimes it can be hit or miss. But I think that I think that we will see more indies jumping ship 100%.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I like the idea of Random House Publishing and Penguin or whatever it is, it's picking it up, because it is a well-known publishing firm. I personally, and we were talking about this backstage, I wish that Scholastic would pick this up and sort of direct market things, because Scholastic is slowly jumping onto the graphic novel train. We see books like Heartstopper published. We see even like publishers like First Second, which are more geared towards those, collected volumes rather than periodicals. And their sales are doing really great, and they thrive in both comic stores and bookshops. So I think comics are definitely changing. I've always felt like this is it's a wave that's slowly coming, but now it feels like it's really, really coming. So comic books are changing, guys. I don't know if it's going to be for the worse or for the better, but we are finally seeing the change that has been building up for literal years.
Yeah. And I don't know. So, Tulp Fiction asks for the comic shop owners, this is going to make them do multiple orders each time, right?
It
And I
is.
think that was, it's so funny where the shop that I used to work at, when Marvel announced this, they're like, finally, like Diamond is a piece of shit. Like, I'm so glad that I'm like, can get out of like Diamond's pocket a little bit more and stop giving them money, because Diamond has, late shipments and kind of fucks over your order and shorts you and like all of that. But then my local shop here, it was announced and it felt like, well, fuck, what does this mean for the industry? Does this make the industry stronger? So I do think that there is a little bit of change, and you're right. I do hope that Scholastic, I was saying backstage, I hope that like, can we have like adult Scholastic book fairs, and are comic book conventions just an adult version of a Scholastic book fair? Because like, I think about like saving up my lunch money, and I'm not going to eat today, so I can buy, buy books.
It's the truth. It is the absolute truth. I will say, because I am close with a lot of comic book shop owners and people that are still within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be taking the Marvel transition a hell of a lot better than the DC transition. And I can't tell if it is because, okay, we've already done the song and dance before with DC, or if it is just because of the way that they're structuring it, the fact that they're going with a different distributor that doesn't feel like their direct competition, the fact that they are providing more tools and more time, it could be one or the other. But I do see that shops are coming to terms with this move a lot better than the DC one.
I agree. And I think that obviously shops have had about a year. I think that if anything, out of this pandemic and quarantine, it has really taught shops to love and appreciate your customers, as well as making sure that you're changing a little bit, right? So like I will talk about this forever. So like literally my local shop went around delivering comics. Like granted, this was way after, but my shop owner, Katie, literally delivered comic books to me Christmas Eve. Like, going around making sure that people still had access to comic books during all of this. So I think that it will, and online, doing more online ordering and things like that. One app that I do feel like I have to shout out right now is Comics Hub. Some shops have access to it, some don't. I literally went on last night and like put like 40 extra things in my cart. So instead of just randomly going to the shop and being like, okay, do you have this? Do you have this? Granted, I have a couple different shops I can go to if I miss out on something. But Comics Hub seems to be a really cool way, if your shop has access to it, where you can pre-order things. You don't like prepay for it, but it lets the shop know what you want to order. And it has Marvel, it has like all of the smaller publishers, as well as DC. So for me, I feel like it made it really easy for me to be like, these are all the things that I want.
Doesn't it give you the option too, where if you do want to pay for your books in advance, you can?
I haven't found that option, because I was honestly going into it, I'm like, okay, like here it goes, buy 50 comic books.
See, I wish my shop would go to that. My shop is a smaller comic shop. I've always talked about it. My shop is more of a like a magic card and game store than it is comics. They just happen to do comics on the side, and I always feel bad because I always bombard them every month with my previews and my giant Excel spreadsheets. And I'm like, can you order like 40 million different things? And then I'll like send them messages at 2 a.m. Can you add this to my pull list, please? Like I did that this morning, and I have to send them off things for the upcoming months. But man, I wish all shops would get into Comic Hub, because I just feel like it is a win-win situation for everybody, the industry, consumers, retailers, you name it.
Just having used it a couple of times, I 100% like, I absolutely love it. So I hope that more shops get access to it. Sorry, I've got a stretchy boy right here who's just like stretching out. But so who knows what'll happen. I hope my perspective is always whatever change happens, I hope it changes, and I hope that the good comic book stores, because there's a lot of bad comic book stores out there, I really hope the good comic book stores end up succeeding. Like, that's all I really want.
I think
So,
it's definitely going to be the modern ones, the ones that, you know, because you go to when we say good and bad comic stores, those bad ones are typically ones that are still stuck in like the 1980s, or it's like girls don't read comic books, marginalized voices don't read comic books.
Are you in
You
here to
know,
pick up something for your boyfriend, honey? Like,
I just,
if you
I
only knew.
like you saying that has literally just, I don't want to say triggered, but like I can smell the type of shops that I'm talking about. And those are
Yeah.
the ones that are just like, they're old and they're stanky and they're dusty. And like, don't get me wrong. I like the smell of old books, but it's just, you know, that type of shop as soon as you walk through the door.
Yeah. 100%. Like, it's a smell. Um, So I think that there was another, I know we were talking a little bit backstage about like what were some of the announcements. One of the announcements I know that you probably want to talk about for a second, Green Arrow.
Green Arrow. Oh, Green Arrow. So yeah, no, that's a good one. Okay, so 2 weeks ago, our last show, I went on a complete rampage because Green Arrow 80th anniversary edition was announced, or 80 years anniversary special. I don't know. It's one of those big ones that I'm going to spend a
I
bunch
think
of
it was
dumb money
80th,
on.
yeah.
And I got really excited because we were seeing the return of Mia Dearden and Conor Hawke. And then on Friday, we got an announcement from Joshua Williamson that Conor Hawke is returning to canon continuity with Robin #3. And when I tell y'all that I let out big, dumb baby tears, I let out big, dumb baby tears because I have been begging DC Comics, like literally begging for Conor Hawke and Mia to come back to comic book continuity. And we're finally getting it. And I'm just really, really excited. Now, I don't know how I feel because it feels like they're aging him down a little bit so that way he can compete with Damian Wayne. And I mean, that's just me having to accept change, and that comics change and, you know, characters change, and that's okay. And I'm going to get used to it, but it's kind of a really big deal. So if you're curious as to Conor Hawke and why I love him so much, because he is the bestest boy, definitely pick up Judd Winnick's Green Arrow run and Kevin Smith's Green Arrow run, because there's a lot of Conor Hawke representation in that. You can also pick up the Green Arrow 80th anniversary special when it comes out, I believe, in June as well.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a really great jumping on point. And I think Robin #3 might just be a great jumping on point in general, because it's the first time we've seen Conor Hawke since pre-New 52. Or maybe it is Tim Drake. And if it is Tim Drake, then I'm not worried about the age factor anymore. But yeah, pick it up because I want to see my boy in more stuff. So I'm really, really excited.
Me, I have like zero like knowledge of
he's not a character a lot of people know about or realize, but like let me tell you right now, he's Green Arrow's biracial son, who is also a monk. And while he is not confirmed as pansexual, he was written to be very, very pansexual. So I hope that we stay with that fact.
I agree. So Tulp Fiction asks, because we're probably going to start digging into the comic books that we read for the last 2 weeks. So what an interesting transition, because I can tell you the series that like broke my heart. I ended up reading this book yesterday, and it broke my heart on my lunch break.
I know exactly what one you're talking about. We're talking about the same book. So is that how we're going to start?
If you're ready, I am ready to talk about the comics that broke my heart this week, or at least this one, because man, it hit and I was crying at my desk. So here's the portion of the show where we're going to start talking about comics. For those of you who obviously weren't here last week, because I wasn't feeling good, so we didn't do a show last week. So we're going to talk about the last 2 weeks. But this
came out this week.
This one came out this week, but you know, we're gonna talk about the last 2 weeks of books.
Question: Am I gonna be able to talk about this book without crying? That is the question. Place your bets, y'all.
This series was so damn good. And I feel like I've always read Martian Manhunter coded as queer, right? And then knowing that in the Black Hammer universe, Barbalian John Johns is, you know, he's gay, he's queer. I love this. I love this book so much, and it just ended. And
Don't start crying on me now, because I'm gonna start crying.
I feel like it was a really perfect ending. Like, was it the ending that I really wanted? Like, no, like, I don't want to spoil it, but this one was so good.
If you told me that, listen, I know we're only in March. This is it. This is my favorite book of 2021. I'm sorry. This is my favorite book of 2021. Because I almost didn't pick up this book. I really didn't. I was like, I don't want to pick up all the Black Hammer spinoffs. There's so many of them now. It's insane. I was like, I'll trade read them. And it was sitting at my shop, and I was like, Barbalian's my favorite of all the characters because he's the gay one. I'm sorry, but it's true, because there's other reasons, but yes, it's because he's the gay one. This book hit me like a bag of bricks. And as somebody who codes himself as queer and seeing him accept his queerness, and I am on record of saying I do not like books that are coming out stories or like you accepting your queer personalities. This was a perfect book because it played into history. It played into queer history and queer love. And I didn't want this one to end, but I knew it had to, and I knew how it was going to end, but it ended not, like you said, not in the way that I expected. And if I'm being honest with this, we spent way more time on Mars than I thought we were going to. And I don't know if I loved that. I think that is the only downside I think I have to this, is we spent way more time on Mars than on Earth, which is where the story predominantly is set. But it also makes sense as to why we spent time on it. And I really liked how it transitioned between, I can never remember his name, but we transitioned between Barbalian and between, his human boyfriend lover. And those, I think, transitions.
Marco, is it Marco?
It might be Marco. That sounds right. But I mean, it was like we would get a panel of Barbalian, and then we get a panel of Marco going through the same emotions, not necessarily the same experience, but definitely the same emotions. And it was just beat for beat the way that it was written out.
It was really good, y'all. Seriously, I don't know if this one's my favorite. I don't want to call that too early, because I feel like during the year I do think like, okay, I have to start thinking I can't start thinking about my favorite books of the year like in December.
I'm also a predictable little asshole, so of course I'm going to resonate with the queer book. And if there's a book that's going to compete for it, it's going to be Hollow Heart, which is also another queer book. So,
yeah. I think that man, there's so many good books coming out, and most of them, in my opinion, are published by like indie versus Marvel or DC. So
it was just a really, really great book. And even if you're not reading Barbalian, or if you're not reading Black Hammer, you can. Dill says make sure you pick up Black Hammer first. Yes, absolutely. But if you don't want to commit to that, and you just want this, which is a 5-issue miniseries, and it's going to be one trade, definitely don't let that stop you. But I also saw Dill said Golden Grail spinoff when. I agree 100%. I need my Golden Grail spinoff.
We are getting a little bit of that in the Black Hammer Visions. So the first issue did, it wasn't like a full spinoff, but it felt like it was like the world around Gale as opposed to like focused on her. So I do feel like Black Hammer Visions is close. I didn't read issue 2 because I'm not going to pick that up. But I'll pick up issue 3.
Yep, 100%.
Pulp Fiction asked about Canto. I actually got a really cool AOK from Bullseye Bob at Everything Comics. He gave me the first trade of Canto. Absolutely love it. Really excited to see the show coming out. And I interviewed
I was going to say, you interviewed the author with your kid.
Yep, with David Booher. Booher. He was a really interesting guy. He's
precious.
He really is, and I am very excited for very good things coming his way.
100%.
What were some of the other books that were, there was a lot of books. Like I'm looking at my stack from like the last 2 weeks. I mean, you
Do
guys
you
know.
want me to just go off on my ramble now? Because I can go
Yeah,
off on a ramble.
go off on a ramble.
So Teen Titans Academy, #1 debuted this week, and I was not expecting to love this book. I feel like right now, DC Comics is really capitalizing on that whole Red X. Like, it's who is Red X? When is Red X? I'm gonna tell y'all right now, we are never going to find out the identity of Red X. This is a marketing ploy by DC Comics, and I am falling for it 100%.
Yep.
That being said, Teen Titans Academy was really, really great and really, really fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. So, this feels like an X-Men book. This feels like at least what I think of when I think of X-Men. This reminds me of the Xavier Academy or the Xavier Institute, and you see all of these different heroes with all of these different powers, and they're kids and they're exploring. So I can see for people that read a lot of Marvel, they might not like this because they're like, oh, we've gotten this story 8 million times before. And for Marvel, absolutely you have. But if you're somebody who reads strictly DC or is a DC fan like me and hasn't read a lot of like X-Men in those titles, this honestly feels like it feels like a breath of fresh air, though, because it's like DC finally gets something that's lighthearted and fun and funny. This honestly reminded me of the Teen Titans TV show, and it actually kind of
Teen Titans. Okay,
the animated one that we all
Teen
grew
Titans
up with.
Go.
No, just straight up Teen Titans. Okay. I mean, yes, Teen Titans Go a little bit, but they even pull from the history of Teen Titans where they talk about how Dick Grayson was the original Red X, and then he lost the mask while chasing after Deathstroke. And I'm like, I remember this episode. And then they talk about how there was multiple Red X's afterward. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I actually gasped out loud, and I was like, they're pulling from the show. I was like, this is pretty cool. But it's just the lightheartedness between characters because, we see, Beast Boy, Starfire, Raven, Cyborg, Donna Troy. They are now teachers. And I really, yes, the babeness of Starfire. Also, did you catch that little kinky bullshit going on between her and Nightwing at the end of this issue? Because I did, and I actually gasped out loud.
So I haven't read it yet, so no spoilers. But if someone had said that sentence, the kinky shit that happens at the end of this book, I would have read this first. This would have been first on my pile.
Okay, well, it's literally the second to last page. And when I tell you you're gonna gasp, it's gonna happen.
Should I read it now? Like do like a lot? I'm just kidding. I won't do that.
No. You shouldn't do that. But I really like just seeing these characters interact and seeing them act as friends, but then act as mentors to these other students. Speaking of students, Teen Titans Academy has introduced another non-binary character. Their name is Stitches. And I like to think that Stitches may or may not be related child of Ragdoll, who is a character from Secret Six by Gail Simone.
Yep, okay.
So I'm really thinking that they might be a child of Ragdoll because they even say that they are like an anamorphic Ragdoll, for lack of a better word, and their name is Stitches, and they look like Ragdoll. But they flat out even say, at one point, they call out their student counterpart and is like, the proper term is non-binary. Though I prefer genderqueer quilted American. Just kidding, I'm not American. I love this. So we saw a non-binary character with the Airy in Suicide Squad, written by Tom Taylor. And I'm like, okay, look at us go. Look at this representation. And then you're going to throw me a second non-binary character? Like, hello, DC Comics, you are feeding me right now. And I am the target audience, and I appreciate that. So Titans Academy, if you just want to have a lot of fun, if you want to see Cyborg teach home ec, or is it Beast Boy? No, Cyborg teaches home ec because Beast Boy assigned it because he thought it would be funny. This is just it's a fun book. Also, I really like seeing Cyborg back with the Titans because that is something that really bothered me in the New 52 is it felt like they were isolating Cyborg and shoving him in with the Justice League, where I felt like he had no chemistry with all of these characters because he was a kid / young adult running with these like 30 and 40-year-olds. And it's like, he's got no chemistry with these. Like, let him go back to his friends. Let him go back with Nightwing and Beast Boy and all them. So, as somebody who loves Teen Titans and has not really read Teen Titans since the pre-boot days, like pre-new 52 and stuff, I feel like this is a nice blend between the new stuff and the stuff that we are really used to. So this shocked the hell out of me. I think it was really good, and I think you should pick it up.
You heard it, folks.
Rant over. I told you I was going to rant for like 20 minutes because you got non-binary representation. We've got kinky Starfire Nightwing stuff. Just Sold. Really. Oh, and the art is really great too. The art is gorgeous.
So that's probably, I'm going to read this as soon as possible, like whenever the show is done. Speaking of, I don't know if you just want to go through like the last 2 weeks by publisher. But Nightwing came out last week.
So you just want me to rant for 20 hours.
I was just going to say,
Got
like,
it.
okay, really quick, let me go ahead and say I probably would have never picked this up if it wasn't for you. And also mostly because I trust your opinion, even though we disagree on a lot of things. However, Tom Taylor, like I didn't like Seven Secrets, the first issue at least. I may try to go back and read the trade. But after reading this, like I feel like I'm a fan of Tom Taylor. Like I loved how emotional this was. I loved how issue 78, like I've never picked up an issue of Nightwing. So I have no clue what the fuck is going on, but I really, really enjoyed this. And I think what really sold me on Tom Taylor, other than you, was his tweet of what is cheese but milk persevering, like playing off the WandaVision quote. I'm like, okay, that's poetry right there, folks, and I'm sold. So Tom Taylor, you've got my money because of that tweet.
And not only that, but we're getting Bruno Redondo on art. And if you don't know Bruno Redondo, he did the art with Tom Taylor in the new Suicide Squad that I am such a huge fan of. So he is known for drawing men incredibly sexy. And there is no one better to draw someone like Nightwing than Bruno fucking Redondo. Like, listen, I always said that Nicola Scott was the pentipulant I know what I want to say, but I can't say it.
Can you hold that up? Hold up.
Yes,
that,
I am. I'm holding.
Okay.
So I always said that Nicola Scott was the ultimate artist for Nightwing. Bruno Redondo is giving her a run for her money because God damn, that is just that's gorgeous. I love it. So yeah, it does say issue 78, but let's be honest with y'all. This is the number one. This they could have easily marketed this as, and they kind of did, but they needed to do more. This is Nightwing number one. If you've never read a Nightwing comic, but if you just know if you've never read a Nightwing comic, pick this book up. They give Nightwing a fucking dog. Not only do they give him a dog, it is a 3-legged dog, and they are calling the dog Bitewing. That is the cutest shit I've ever seen, and I don't know if the poll is still live, but there was a poll up for people to vote on the civilian name of Bitewing. And the last I saw it, it was torn between Blue and Haley. And I just... This book is so great. It's so fun. I had almost texted you that it feels like Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, but then I was like, let me not say that because I don't know if I'm just like imagining things and kind of forcing that. But then you sent that and I was like, okay, I'm not the only one that sees it. So if you're a fan of Matt Fraction and David Asia's Hawkeye, definitely pick this book up. But it literally does. It just kind of, it zeroes in on Nightwing. It's grounding him a little bit more in Bloodhaven. This does take place after the death of Alfred, which to some people is going to come as a bit of a shock. But they're also throwing Barbara Gordon into the mix. And so I feel like their relationship is going to kind of zero in a little bit more, which I really like. But I agree. Tom Taylor does really good with superheroes and he does really good with these feel-good comics. But then he also does really good with these comic books that will literally break your heart. So
emotion. So I don't want to spoil it too much, but there is an emotional like moment at the end, and I swear, like I I swear that I'm like, I don't know how comics make me so emotional when I literally like my channel is called Comics Will Break
Comic
Your
books will
Heart.
break your heart.
But seriously, I'm still surprised every single time a book like this just hits me right in the feels with a character I know like not much about. It's literally the first issue I've ever picked up. And I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much sense.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
This is a great book. And then at the very end of this book, and maybe this is me manifesting and hoping to will it into existence, but I gasped because at the end we see this character in the very top corner here. We see this character, and I'm
Here,
low key.
can I
We're gonna zero in. So we
Mhm.
see this character here, and she's in shadow, and they don't give her a name yet. But I am low key hoping that we are going to get to see the return of Onyx, who is a like Batman side character that was really big during Under the Red Hood, and she's just this absolute badass vigilante. And I'm low key hoping that that's her and that's them reinventing her, because I know she's a minor character, but I love her and I want her to come back and I want more people to know about her. So, Tom Taylor, please confirm or disconfirm, because I know you watch this channel. Because
Yeah.
I am a simp for your work. I will say that. Tom Taylor and Tom King, I'm part of the Tom Squad. Please confirm if it is Onyx, because I love Onyx. This was like my favorite book last week. And I added it to my pool list. This is the first time I've had
and their like her relationship with the Joker, and I feel like she hasn't been able to exist as a character outside of that. But I loved this so much. I think Stephanie Phillips writing this is so fantastic. I love that she's returning to just like a fun, playful character, and like her outfit is just so cute.
Oh yeah.
This book made me feel so nostalgic for DC. And if anyone knows me, you know that that when it comes to like DC, I not grew up, but like I started reading with DC, right? So I feel like this made me feel really, really nostalgic for the comics that I was reading when I first started getting into comics, like Long Halloween. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to add it to my poll. So Stephanie Phillips is doing a great job.
So I did not love it.
Ah,
I went into it expecting to love it. So we'll preface first. I absolutely love the art. This book was very, very wordy for my baby comic brain.
I like that though.
It was very, very wordy. And I usually really like Stephanie Phillips, but I wasn't crazy about that fact. The other part I wasn't crazy about is I feel like as a number one, this was a little confusing to follow, because they are constantly going back and referencing the Joker War. They're constantly going back and referencing the clown killer and this and that. And as somebody who is only reading Batman by trade and hasn't read that arc yet, I was getting a little confused and I was finding it a little hard to follow. I also personally think, and this is not my opinion, but I know a lot of people on the internet who love Harley Quinn share this opinion. I feel like this is going to upset a lot of people, because this is Harley kind of diving full-fledged into heroism rather than being either a vigilante or a villain. So I feel like it's going to upset a lot of people on that foundation alone, because I know that people think that, you know, when we talk about characters that have been kind of destroyed or retconned by DC Comics, Harley's the number one when it comes to her fan base, because people miss the Jester. People miss her being a bad guy. And I mean, I agree on some sense of the word. I do wish that she could have stayed a villain. I definitely agree with her breaking away from the Joker, maybe updating her costume so she's not necessarily a full-blown Jester. I love the costume.
That's what I love about the costume here.
And I do love the costume, but I do kind of wish that she would go back to being a bad guy, because we look at Poison Ivy, who is a straight up bad guy, and they're girlfriends. So why not just have bad girlfriends doing bad things together and just wrecking the world? That's just my opinion on it. I do think a lot of people will like this, though. I think I'll definitely read it in trade. I will say it is one of the more engaging Harley Quinn stories than what we've had in the past couple years. I just feel like it's going to split a lot of people right down the middle.
I agree. And when I think about who this book is maybe like written for, I don't think that it's written for the people who were reading Joker War or Dark Knight's Death Metal. And I don't think that this book was written with those people in mind. And I'm kind of okay with that, if that makes sense. It sounds like 100% Chris, pro villain.
Pro villain.
Yeah. Bookish Realm. Do you feel like Punchline is a stand-in for Harley? 100%. I will say this. I hated every single moment when I was reading Punchline in like the Batman comics that were coming out last year. However, I did read the Punchline special and I enjoyed that a lot. So I enjoyed her on her own, but maybe not like, I felt like it was literally like every month it was like, you're the joke and I'm the punchline. And
I think we just need a book where, but I mean, Harley's already there, but Punchline realizes what a piece of shit Joker is. And I feel like we just need a book where it's Harley Quinn and Punchline teaming up and beating the shit out of the Joker or doing their own thing. I think Punchline would make a really, really great addition to the Gotham City Sirens. I really do. And I feel like we would get a lot of really great characterization moments between these two girls that were the Joker's girlfriend, where it's like they start off as this, I hate you and I hate you back. And then they realize, A, we've got a lot of shared trauma maybe, and B, we're just really cute and maybe we should make out at some point. I don't know. I just think it'd be a fun book. DC hired me to write Gotham City Sirens 2.0. Yes. Gotham City Sirens kill the Joker.
Oh, I'm here. I'm so here for it. Like I'm waiting. I'm waiting, DC.
I'm waiting.
So the other book on the list, you probably, I feel like you know.
Oh, we have two totally different books.
Well, you go first since I just ranted about Harley Quinn. So you go ahead and talk about Justice League, right?
I didn't read Catwoman because I just collect the covers and I need to catch up. But I'm glad you read it, so we'll talk about that. But did you read this one? Because this is a Bendis title, so you did not read the Bendis book. I read the Bendis book.
You read the Brian Michael Bendis book, and I totally should have. I think that the reason why I didn't read it is because I'm like, okay, I'm not looking forward to the Justice League movie. Let me go ahead and just like skip this book. And then I hated the 4 hours that I sat through Justice League so much. And then I'm like, I'm not going to pick it up.
You know that there's a Ram V backup story in here, right? For Justice League Dark. Okay. Just letting you know in case you need incentivization. Justice League. This book was $5 and I hated it. And I'm very upset. So,
you're not really selling this book to me. You're like, did you read it? Don't buy it.
I think you're going to like it because you love Brian Michael Bendis. I don't like Brian Michael Bendis, so I already was going into it with like a chip on my shoulder. Can I be honest with you? The only reason I really, really picked it up is because Green Arrow and Black Canary show up. And that is literally the only time that they show up is in this little panel here. So I was a little disappointed. I wanted more Green Arrow, Black Canary, y'all. First of all, Black Canary's got a redesign finally, and I'm really excited because we're ditching the blue. I fucking hated that blue corset. I'm sorry, but a 30 or 40-year-old man should not be redesigning these female characters. I fucking hate that. I stole that from Brendan Fletcher, by the way. I really like this because I feel like it kind of takes the best of both worlds, where it does keep her weird bird logo, but whatever. But puts her back in the all black and fishnets and yada yada. This is a really fucking weird team up because there's no Wonder Woman. Instead of Wonder Woman, we have Hippolyta. We've got Hawk Girl on it, which I really love. I love seeing more Kendra. But they're trying to throw. So first of all, they make Black Adam a good guy, which I'm tired of making villains good guys. It's just boring to me. Second of all, I hate the fact that they are throwing Naomi into the Justice League. I understand that this is Brian Michael Bendis' baby.
Yeah.
I do agree that we need, more characters onto the Justice League. Like, I would like to see Vixen on the Justice League finally. I've been preaching about that for years. Yeah. Naomi should not be in the Justice League. Naomi should be on Titans or Teen Titans because, again, it circles back to my conversation I had with Cyborg, where we have this young adult teenager, because I did not read Naomi, so I don't know how old she is.
Yeah, she's like high school age.
She's like high school age.
High school, college age, yeah.
Why are we throwing this like cute little young adult who probably has a lot of fun with her life into a group of like 30 or 40-year-olds? It makes no sense to me. Put her with her friends where she can joke and, you know, they can have fun conversations. And I feel like this story, because it does have the backup story in it, which may be why it's $5.99. I feel like the story was over before it even began. So I did not care for it. I might read it by trade. The art is really gorgeous. So I will say this, DC Comics is finally listening when I say that you can go into a shop, pick up any book that doesn't have a main character on it, and you won't know what you're reading because all the art looks the same. We're finally getting some really great stylized art. But this was not a fun time. I did not like it at all. Why are we making good guys or bad guys good guys? Why are we putting teenagers on teams with adults and not letting them have fun?
Hear me out. I think that it can be done well if we do it like Spider-Man.
If we do it like Spider-Man.
Like,
okay.
Because Spider-Man being like around, you know, Black Widow and Iron Man. And so I think that there is like a fun dynamic, because as I think that it's done well whenever the character works as a like comedic relief. I don't necessarily think that's gonna, like, I think you're right. I don't think that's going to necessarily happen with Naomi in the Justice League. I loved Naomi, so I do think I'm probably gonna pick this up, but my expectations will now be like way down here. So
I'll send you my copy. It'll be okay.
You're like, don't even worry. Just I got you.
I got you.
Well,
but you read Catwoman.
I did. I honestly have no clue what was going on because it's issue number 29. I think it like picks up where the last run ended. I did end up picking up the first like 5 volumes of Catwoman, and I just need one more to get the Rom V's latest run. So we'll see if I can finish that, and then maybe I'll go into this with a fresh perspective. I still really enjoyed it though. I read it last week.
That's your take on Catwoman.
Yeah, that's my take on Catwoman. It's 100% not nuanced whatsoever, but I still really enjoyed this.
I will say it does feel like, and I'm horribly behind because I don't know what happened. I just got really behind, and now at this point I'm just buying them because of the covers and because I'm a shill. It does seem the dumb bitch money. It does seem though, from the majority of people reading it consistently, that the book has stayed consistent ever since Rom V has jumped on. So it does make me excited to, when I get the time, to go through and catch up. Because what issue did you say that was? 28?
29.
Oh, yeah. Lord, I am so far behind. It's not even funny.
Yeah. I still really enjoyed it. We'll see if I keep like remembering to pick it up. But what were let's go ahead. Do you want to go ahead and like talk about Marvel now? I know you don't pick up too many Marvel books, or do you want to go like more into indies?
We can do Marvel and just kind of get the big two out of the way. I do only have one Marvel book, and as we talked about backstage, I have a lot of very big feelings about Alien here.
Yeah, well, go ahead and you talk about Alien, because I'll go ahead and get my Marvel books straightened out.
So first off, I called it with Alien getting a series, and then Predator getting variants, and then Predator getting a series. And as DeCosta says down below, I agree. The covers for Alien were absolutely amazing. And even the covers for future issues are really, really great and engaging. I wish that was the same for an Alien book. I love Alien. I'm a huge Alien fan. I used to be terrified as a child. Like, I would run into the other room screaming whenever a xenomorph came on the screen. And then I watched it as an adult, and I'm like, that xenomorph is my child, and I love them.
Is that the Peach Momoko cover that you got there?
It is the Peach Momoko, because I'm also a shill for Peach Momoko and will buy anything Peach Momoko does. Yeah. I had high expectations for this book just because this was Marvel grabbing the Alien franchise, and later on we'll see with the Predator franchise for the first time. And I had high hopes because when they did it with Star Wars, it was the first time that a Star Wars comic for me was engaging. So I was like, okay, we're going to do the same with Alien. And it was the quite opposite. So
really quick, while you're talking about Star Wars, I really just want to reiterate that because I do not like the Star Wars movies, but I feel like Dr. Aphra in Star Wars is one of my favorite comics, hands down. So I do just want to say, like, I enjoy the Star Wars comics infinitely more than I enjoy the movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alien starts off really fucking strong. I absolutely love this page and how it says alien inside, don't open. It almost reminds me of that Walking Dead, don't open, dead inside or whatever. I was like, all right, we're getting horror elements and horror vibes. Also, hello, Valkyries. I'm so excited for this book. And then we get the splash page of all of the xenomorphs, and I'm like, I'm into this. This is fun. And then it turns into normal civilian space garbage bullshit. And I'm like, I don't care. So, for those of you that don't know, this sets off 30 years after the events of Aliens. And it is about a dude whose name I don't remember because he is generic AF. He's got some post-trauma where I guess his entire squad died and he was the remaining survivor. He is now transitioning back into civilian life, but oh wait, he has a really bad relationship with his son, and his other son died, so his living son has resentment towards him. But JK, his son is also a terrorist. And in this world, terrorists are great because Weyland-Yutani is a terrible company. So he's a capitalist terrorist or whatever we want to. Capital terrorist? I don't know. Is there a word for that?
Capitalist.
No, he's not, because he's anti-capitalist. Either way.
Oh.
So his son is anti-Weyland-Yutani. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Fuck Weyland-Yutani.
Yeah.
Tell me why this book actually made me side with Weyland-Yutani, because this terrorist group and his girlfriend literally go in, guns a-blazing, and shoot a woman point blank in her fucking face. And then they shot another dude. And I hate to say it, y'all, but they probably shot a cat in the fucking process. And I was pissed. And I'm like, they had families. Like, they're just living to get a job. They're like,
I need that story. I need that comic book.
They are bottom of the barrel, and you just went and shot them in their fucking face. Like, this is like, it's just bad. It was terrible. Not only that, but I texted you this morning, and I'm like, why is this book so goddamn white? Every single character in this book is generic white dude, white person, and I'm sorry. Aliens came out in 1979, or Alien came out in 1979. There was more people of color in a movie from 1979 and a space science fiction horror at that than there was in the space science fiction horror comic published in 2021.
Honestly, like, I feel like I expected more from Salvador Larroca on that.
I want more. I want to see, like, at this point, I'm pro. Why am I pro Weyland-Yutani? You know that you've written your comic poorly and you've established your universe poorly when I am rooting for the guy that we've hated since, I mean, for me, obviously, I started late, but we've been fucking hating Weyland-Yutani since 1979. And now in 2021, I'm like, you know what? They might not be so bad.
I think I did not hate this book as much as you did, but it's been a minute since I've watched the movies. And I think that my theory is that I think that I will like this if I go back and watch the movies, because I feel like I'll end up liking more of the little Easter eggs. I feel like there's a lot of Easter eggs in here that I'm just not getting. But I agree. I think that if we're writing books about aliens, can we at least acknowledge that there's other people in the world than just white people? We say as two white hosts on this
as two white hosts, but listen, I'm here because I need representation and diversity in everything. And fuck this book, man. I think it's kind of funny that they were like, Aliens 3 and Alien 4, those movies don't exist. Because they literally only talk about Alien and aliens, and maybe that's because this is when it was set, but I really do think that was intentional. Yeah. And I kind of liked Alien 4, whatever the one is with Winona Ryder. I think that one is unironically kind of funny. That's my thoughts on the Alien franchise.
Did you get any other Marvel books? I know that you don't read a lot of Marvel, but
Nope. Not a
okay.
single other Marvel book, so take it away.
I do kind of agree with Bueller here. I think that the book was good. Issue 2 will make issue 1 better. It pointed out the story and where it's going to go. I do hope that it gets better because I feel like this could have been a much stronger issue, and I feel like Aliens, the hype and the excitement around it, Aliens could have easily been my favorite book of the week, and it wasn't. So,
But will it make it less white? Because I highly doubt that. I am literally gunning for Marvel at this point. I'm gonna take a back seat while Jen talks about Marvel, and I'm just gonna stew in my shit.
Well, I feel like the only other Marvel books that I at least have like right here, I feel like I get more Marvel books than this. I know we talked about it earlier, but seriously, like Dr. Aphra is just so cute. She's a cutie and I really like her.
I hate that cover. That cover is just so. What is her face?
I
What
love
is her
it.
face?
I think it's so cute. She's like trying to run, and I think it makes it a little bit more fun. I don't want to go too much into this because obviously it's issue 8. I consistently love Dr. Aphra. The series does get a little bit it's, to me it's confusing because there's a couple different iterations of Dr. Aphra because you get the Kieran Gillen, and then this one's Alyssa Wong.
Okay, so I know Spy Spurrier did one at one point too.
Yeah, so I think that if like you were going to go into Dr. Aphra, like what are you going to pick? Like obviously I would say go ahead and pick up Darth Vader first, and then go ahead and pick up Dr. Aphra. But I love this book a lot.
Question for you, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot, and this is open to the chat as well, because I know how the Darth Vader series ended, and it made me very sad because I love their relationship. Have they ever like met again or had a confrontation again after the events of Kieran Gillian's Darth Vader?
I don't recall. No. I think, yeah. I can't recall him popping up in any of these books.
I'm just considering the way that things were left. There might be a little tendencies there, you know? And I would just like to see how that plays out. I'm very curious about that. So if you know in the chat, let me know. So I can immediately dive into that.
I want to go ahead and say hello to Sean. The other 2 books that I got, I feel like I got a couple more X books. I just don't have them right here, but I do have Excalibur and Cable. I love Cable so much. I know the series is about to end soon, so kind of sad about that. And then Excalibur is just, it's fun. I enjoy, this one was kind of weird, but I enjoy what's going on. I'm here for anything X bullshit, so. The other book that I really want to talk about, because I was so surprised how much I really enjoyed this one.
And then you immediately texted me about it, and I said, because my shop didn't have it.
This book, so anyways, I read the King in Black tie-in for Black Knight, and I'm like, I didn't really like this. I felt like it was way too wordy. And then I'm like, okay, I'm still going to pick this one up. I really just absolutely love this cover. And I read it, and it gave me Moon Knight vibes, the way that it talks about like mental health. And we have, I can't remember Black Knight, their like civilian name or whatever, but the way that he talks about mental health, and he's going to like a little robot therapist. It's really, really cute. So I enjoyed this book a lot. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did, and I definitely added it to my pull list.
It's always fun. I really like those issues where you go into it and you're like, I'm just gonna pick this up for shits and giggles, and then you end up being like, oh, okay. Thank you for surprising me. I'm going to buy 20 issues of that now.
Yeah. And DaCosta, I have never read any Black Knight either. And so maybe that's why I didn't like the King in Black tie-in. But I felt like this one was such a good introduction, and it's issue number 1. So I feel like it would be really easy to, if I can get into Black Knight this easily, then you should be able to. So Let's go ahead and dive into some now that we've got the like big two bullshit out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and get into some indies.
Well,
I know
speaking of mental health, and since we're going into indie, Crimson Flower #3, which ended up being the book that we hated the most, and then ended up
the
becoming the
first
book that
issue.
the first issue, and then we both ate our words and was like, damn, this is actually a really, really solid book, and I really like this. First of all, can we talk about this cover by Marguerite Sauvage? Because this is
Ooh,
just
let
the
me go
most
ahead and
gorgeous. This is the most gorgeous cover I have ever seen in my whole life, and I love it so much. And I was actually going to buy this, whether or not I liked Crimson Flower, just because this is so gorgeous, and I'm glad because I do love this book. Man, this book. I don't know how I feel about this issue because I'm still holding out for the fact that. So the way that my ideal ending for this book is, so she's going around, she's killing all of these people, right? And she thinks that she's doing the right thing, and we see her kind of transition between these like fairy tale, like folklore creatures, and her being the princess or the knight in shining armor. And then it transitions to, okay, there's just people dead all around. Part of me is hoping that we get to the end of this series and she realizes I have gone and murdered 15 bajillion people. I am the actual villain.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that psychosis going on there. That would be my ideal ending. However, with this, we're confronted because this is only a 4-issue miniseries, so we only have one issue.
Okay, it is 4. I was like,
yeah,
4 or 6. Yeah.
We only have one issue left, and we are confronted with a really bad guy. And when I say bad guy, like, he's like, yeah, I killed these people and I snapped this person's neck, and then I went and raped this whole village just because I can. And I'm like, okay, so you are an extreme dickhead. And then that's how the issue kind of ends, is this confrontation with him. And I'm still loving this series. I am interested to see how it's going to play out, considering there is only one more issue.
Yeah. I do. I feel like Dark Horse has been doing a lot of these like 4-issue, because Colonel Weird Cosmagog was 4 issues. I feel like there's 2 or 3 other series that were just like 4 issues, and I appreciate it because I think that's what inspired me to pick up issue 2 after hating issue 1 of this so much. Because I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and pick up issue 2 because of a really cool cover. Let me just go ahead and try. And then, okay, it's only 4 issues. Let me go ahead, like 100% enjoyed this so much. This character is really, I think, really interesting. I'd love to know more about her other than just like the trauma, but I think, you know,
I think that's the point of the book, though. I really do.
Yeah. So I think not only because Matt Kint is doing this, and Matt Kint is doing so many books right now.
He's also doing our favorite book, Berserker.
Berserker.
It's a joke if you haven't watched the show before. We do not like Berserker, and we have very strong opinion. Well, I don't like Berserker, and I have very strong opinion.
Don't hate Berserker because I'm still here. It's everything that I expected, right? So I knew that it's just going to be like people going in, and I'm not like necessarily opposed, but I do think that it could have been pushed a little bit. So anyways, I still will be reading Berserker because I dumb bitch money, dumb bitch time, maybe.
Dumb bitch money, dumb bitch time. Love it.
Yeah. Alrighty. So one of the other books I know that you read this week, you read Haha, right?
I loved Haha #3. So if you guys don't know, Jen does another show on Fridays with Hero and the Kid. And she's with Bearded Comics Bro and Sammy and just that whole Fire Guy Ryan, that whole crew. Y'all hated this book, and I'm sitting there in the chat. I mean, you didn't hate the book, but the majority of people did not like this book, and I'm sitting there in the chat like, this was like, other than Barbalian, obviously, like, this was my favorite thing that I read this week. I loved this book for a lot of reasons, and I think so. Haha is an anthology series following a series of clowns, for lack of a better word. So we get clowns, mimes, jokers, harlequins, and it's got serious, dark mental health vibes and things like that. It's just a really depressing book, but I really liked it. This is my favorite issue out of all three that we've gotten so
Really?
far.
Okay.
A lot of people are complaining because this is a silent issue, and first of all, that is
It goes
perfect.
by really quick.
He's a mime. Of course,
Yeah.
this should be a silent issue. That is perfect. I'm a huge fan of silent issues. So if we look at it was the Emma Frost, Jean Grey big issue during Dawn of X.
Yeah.
That was a silent issue, and I love silent issues because then at that point I feel like it is a artist working their, I mean, they always work their heart out, but it's hard to tell a story without words, and you've got to convey that emotion and that feeling. So when an artist is able to do that and do that successfully, I give them all the praise in the world. And I feel like that happened with Haha. So I'm sitting there and I'm reading Haha, and I've kind of got like this quirky music going on in my head as I'm reading it. Like, think like Fantasia or like Disney, like Pixar shorts, like that type of music with like the little piano trills and like little bleeps and bloops or whatever.
Bleeps and bloops.
And
Beep, boop.
this, listen, man, first of all, he gay as fuck with the robot. And I'm like,
I love it.
I love the little romance he has with the robot. I'm like, they're so cute. And then they take away his robot, and then he has to go rescue his robot. And I won't spoil the rest of it, but this was just a really sweet and heartwarming issue. And I loved how animated it got, because that's how it reads across with the style. And like I said, I just kind of read this as like a Fantasia, like little short. I really like this one, and I've read this actually a couple times since, and it's my favorite one out of the three we've gotten so far.
Oh, see, I think that I'm still a fan most of all of the first one, but I think that it was one of the shows that we went over, like previews and things like that, where we were looking at like the upcoming issues, and I saw that Haha number 3, the cover was a mime, and I'm like, I hate mimes. I don't know if it's just like that they just seem pretentious to me. I don't know, maybe that's just me like putting my bullshit onto someone else. But I saw the cover and I'm like, I am not going to enjoy this book, but I've been enjoying the series, or at least I think at that point it was just the first issue. So I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and read this. I did really, really enjoy this. I thought that it was really special. It's a really quick and easy read.
It was emotional.
It was very emotional for how quick and easy it was. And I think that I'm very curious what this script would have looked like for this, because obviously like there's no thought bubbles or speech bubbles or anything like that really.
Maybe he'll release it in the trade.
Oh, that would be really interesting.
A fun little extra. Haha is just one of my favorite series right now, and it makes me sad that it's only 5 issues, because I know I'm not going to want it to end. So this is done by the same guy who does Ice Cream Man. And I mean, I love Ice Cream Man, don't get me wrong, but I love this so much more, and I can't really pinpoint it, but I need like 20 more issues. Like, how many more clowns and clown subcategories and types are there in the world? Because I could use one for every single type. And could you imagine that's just like what Maxwell Prince was doing, like sitting in his little writer's room doing research on all these like different types of clowns. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do a Harlequin. I'm going to do a regular Bobo the Clown. I'm going to do a fucking mime. Like, the thought process behind a story like this, I really want to see more on that.
I don't know if my friend Nicole is still in the chat, but I feel like she would know about clowns. So Nicole, if you're still in the chat, I would love to know your thoughts on clowns and mimes. One of the other books that did come out this week, that I know it's a series that we've both been really liking. Okay.
So by the way, if you didn't pick it up, the second printing of issue number 1 dropped this week as well. So if you missed out on the first issue, run to your shop and get it, because this is such a good book. I love this book. It's so fun.
Really quick, DaCosta, so Haha and Ice Cream Man are going to cross over. Technically, they already have crossed over, because you do see a couple of different, like I think that there's like 1 or 2 characters that have already gone between. So I do think that we've seen that. And Bueller, if you're a cat guy, you missed the beginning of the show where Luna just like sprawled out here.
For a good 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, he's a ham, and then you caught some pictures of him backstage. Like literally, he just like sits here like this because
And
he's a
now that
terrible.
Bueller has said that, I kind of wish that one of the characters in this book was a cat that maybe
What if a
thought that
cat shows up?
they were a dog. Like I just think that would have added some variety to it, where it's like you got this whole group of dogs, but then you have just a random cat. I love it. No, so this book, it continues to be the most gorgeous book ever. So we kind of dig more into it. Sophie is trying to investigate further into the fact that, you know, she believes that this guy killed her master. And, you know, we know outsider looking in, yeah, he definitely killed all of these women or people or whatever. But it's like that. Alfred Hitchcock said that, you know, the best suspense is knowing that there's a bomb under your seat and waiting for it to go off, not necessarily finding out that there's a bomb 5 minutes before it goes off, but knowing it's been there
I
the whole
love
time. And that's kind of how this feels, is we know that there's a bomb under the seat. We know that eventually they are going to find out that this guy has been killing people and it's going to be the escape, but it's the buildup and the tension that gets to it. I personally am waiting to see one of these dogs either turn and end up being evil themselves, or I don't want to say it, but I've got a feeling that Rusty might have been in on some of these kidnappings and murders, and maybe now he's feeling remorse, and I feel like that's going to be a big twist at some
Rusty's
point.
the main one, right?
Rusty is the main dog, and I feel like he's the one that's been there the longest.
And it does seem like he has more of his memory, right? Because he's obviously able to like give her, whenever in the first issue, the I forget all the puppies' names. I should probably know them. But the Sophie, I think you said. So Sophie, when Sophie gets introduced and you know, she's getting the tour and Rusty's like, okay, here's this. So he probably doesn't have memory loss like all the other puppies.
It's very possible. I love this book. I love how it's going to be short, sweet, and self-contained. I know I said that when we reviewed issue 1, but like, how can you not like this book? Like, I feel like if somebody were to tell me that they didn't like this book, it would give the same reaction as if you told me you didn't like dogs or you didn't like cats or whatever. It's the same emotional reaction where it's like, how dare you?
It's so funny with this series. Like initially when it was pitched, it was like Hannibal Lecter or Silence of the Lambs meets Lady and the Tramp. I do want to just go ahead and say this book is not either of those things. Like, I feel like
whoever did that elevator pitch was totally off.
Because like for me, from my perspective, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a horror love story, and maybe it hasn't gotten there yet because we're only on issue 2. But I did go into this series thinking that it was going to be a lot more horrific. Like I thought it was going to be more where the dogs were killers, as opposed to they end up in a home where with a killer. So I'm curious where this is going to go. I don't think that this is a limited series, so this could probably, you know, go on and on and on for like 6 seasons and a movie. I'd still buy it because it's cute. I like it a lot. And it's so funny because, you know, you mentioned the other Friday show that I do. And Bearded, Greg and I were talking about how we expected this to be more horror, and Will was like, well, I expected it to be more cute, so I didn't realize that it was going to be horror. And I think that no matter what your expectations are of this book, it's still a really good read. And I love the like horror homage covers.
Oh,
I think they're worth it for just that.
And again, I think it's just going to be a great draw into mainstream comic readers who don't, you know, this is going to be like another like Snot Girl or Saga, where it's like people who don't normally read comics look at it and they're like, that's kind of neat. I kind of love that. And they pick it up.
If you did have to say it's Lady and the Tramp meets what? Like, what would you say?
I know what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to say it because you said it first and I don't want to steal your credit.
Oh, no. What was that?
Memento. You totally hit the... I think you said Memento. Was that you or Greg? Maybe Greg said it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this book, it feels like it should be maybe not Lady and the Tramp, but maybe All Dogs Go to Heaven meets Memento.
Yes.
I think would have been a way better elevator pitch than Silence of the Lambs meets Lady and the Tramp, because I'm definitely getting the latter, you know, instead.
Yep. For sure. I think that would be, I really hope that we do, as much as I want this to be a horror book, I really do think that we're going to end up getting like a sweet, wholesome ending. So,
I mean, might not, but then that is whenever you bring a dog's life into something, whether it's a movie, show, comic, you are crossing some very fine boundaries. So this could go I Am Legend-ish. And if so, I know I will be very, very upset. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep. What other let's go ahead and can we just like trash this book really quick since we're talking indies? Oh my god. So
okay, so you hated it too. Oh, thank God.
I really, really wanted to like this book, and I feel like there are points that I do like. I really enjoy Maria Lovett's artwork, but I feel like as much
So since you mentioned her artwork was weird in this. It did not feel like her normal artwork. So I'm not wondering if this is an older story that she's done. And then they just picked up the publishing rights to it because the art feels a little bit off. It feels very not amateurish, but compared to what we've seen recently with like Faithless and even with Luna, it feels very, very different. So I'm not wondering if this is like just a really early story that she pitched at a publisher and they were like, you're like a new hot artist right now, like Mirka Andolfo. So yeah, we'll let you do whatever you want. This was like one of my most anticipated books of the year because I was like, all right, it's going to be lesbians and it's going to be lesbians, y'all.
They're like at a school and like, honestly, like I feel like this book didn't get to the fucking point. Like this book,
I don't know what happened in this book. Can I be honest with you? I don't understand the plot of this book. At one point she loses an eye and I'm still trying to figure out how she didn't lose an eye, but she got scratched or whatever. And then this book ended before I was like literally got to the end and I'm like, okay, we're getting to some plot. And then it ended. And I'm like, this book was supposed to be, at least this is coming from me, this was supposed to be the craft.
Yes, like there's
queer craft.
Like, here, like we do have moments where like these girls are sitting in a circle and that did give me like craft vibes. I think I do want to say like I loved the artwork of this, but I feel like everyone who Maria Lovett draws looks the same. All of the characters
100%.
look the same. Like I remember reading, that's maybe why this was so confusing to me, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this really quick. I feel like I couldn't really tell the difference between those characters because they both have dark hair. They have slightly differing skin tones, and like one girl has like flowers in her hair or something, or bows.
Did we go from loving Maria Lovett to absolutely hating her? Did this become a Mirka Andolfo within the span of 20 seconds?
I think so. I really think so because
you either live long enough, here we go, ready? You either live long enough to see yourself become a Joelle Jones, or you die before you become a Mirka Andolfo. I feel like that's how it is when we come to female artist-writer combinations, is like Joelle Jones is great on both writing and art. We've got Mirka Andolfo, who is bad on both art, and I feel like Maria Lovett was swinging right in the middle, and now she's kind of fallen down this book. I don't even know what I wanted from it. That's the sad part, is like, if you looked at me and was like, what would you do to fix it? I'd be like, I don't know, because I don't even know what the point of this book was. Like,
I think that maybe all of the good ideas that she had, like, because I think that when it comes to Faithless, the book Faithless, she's the best part of Faithless, 100%.
I mean, she doesn't have much competition, let's be honest.
That is also true. The story, I feel like, but at least even with Faithless, it's giving me something where this one didn't give me anything. Like, I barely remember, like, I knew that it was going to be like, she's going to a school and she's excited, but then it introduced me to things and didn't follow up. So I think if I could do like one thing, it would be follow through. I want follow through on whatever the hell is happening in this book.
Yeah, if you read this book and you know what happened and want to give us either Spark Notes or a play-by-play, please do, because I don't know if we just missed something. Yeah, I don't know what happened with this book. I did not like it.
Good morning.
Would not recommend it to anybody. And that's, I hate saying that because I feel like there's, a book is for everybody at some point. There's a certain audience at some point. I struggle to figure out who this book is geared towards.
It wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
What is any other books that you read that you did like? Any other indie books?
Last book that I have, which I picked up on a whim, and I actually picked up because Dill, who ran off to do house husband stuff, Dill was talking about this on his Instagram. It's like, let me pick it up. It's in my shop. And that is Orphan and the Five Beasts, published by Dark Horse Comics. This came out last week. I actually really, really enjoyed this. I did not expect to enjoy this. How would I describe this? This is like Ghost of Tsushima meets a Miyazaki film meets Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yeah, man, you just literally hit like 3 nails on the head.
That's my elevator pitch. So I'm not familiar with James Stokoe. I know you had mentioned him when we were backstage. I'm not familiar with his work. First of all, his artwork in this book is fucking gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Like, I found myself poring over every little detail and how detailed everything was. And we were talking about Berserker earlier and how, that is a book that is overly violent without needing to be. This is another book that gets really violent, but it works. And I really I found myself chuckling at points. And there's a part in particular that I'm going to bring up that I probably shouldn't have laughed at as hard as I did. But there's a villain in this book called Thunder Thighs.
Yeah.
And I really love Thunder Thighs here because he radiates that big boy himbo energy probably. But there's a point where he crushes a horse, literally obliterates a fucking horse between his thighs. Now, don't get me wrong. This is what I wish like Big Barda and people like that would do to me. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm in that minority or whatever. But he literally crushes a horse between his thighs. And I'm like, this is fucking insane. And I love this. And his people are like, literally, dude, we don't have horses for ourselves because you keep killing them all. And he's like, well, here's your damn horse. And he literally takes a horse leg and throws it at one of his dudes. And I'm like, this is a fun time. I'm having a lot of fun with this book. I know I feel like I say this a lot with a lot of books I read. I want this to get animated and adapted. I just feel like this would be a fun fucking time. Like, this feels like it should have been an anime that I would have just sat down and enjoyed, but it also works as a comic. It's a good, fun time. If you want just a fun, action-packed adventure, that's Orphan and the Five Beasts, man.
100%. And the fact that, from what I understand, James Stokoe, they do the writing, the artwork, and the coloring on this. And I think that the coloring, I don't know. I hope that he does it because I think that
script, art, letters, and cover. Holy shit. Yeah. He is a one-man show.
I'm trying to think. I'm like thinking back at my shelf. I'm like, I know I have a couple other things by James Stokoe, but I can't think of what they are off the top of my head. If anyone in the chat has any recommendations or anything like that.
That's insane. Now that I know that he literally did everything in this book, he did the letters, he did the colors, the inks, the pencils, the writing. That just kind of elevates it for me because I don't want to say that this is a perfect book because it's hard to label what a perfect book is. But considering that it was one man doing this, I mean, and we look at somebody like, for example, Maria Lovett here, who also did almost everything. This is the book to beat right here is Orphan and the Five Beasts. That's insane.
Thank you, Sleepy Reader. He did do Orcstain. There was another book another book that I really enjoyed, and I'm not going to stand up and get it. I don't think that he was a part of it, but it came out last year called First Knife. It was originally called Protector, but I read that and I feel like it reminded me a lot of their work. So really enjoyed Orphan and the Five Beasts. And I think that this one, also done by Dark Horse, it is going to be like I think this one's a mini series as well. I think this one's going to be 4 or 5 issues. So, I mean, I couldn't imagine there being a lot of issues of this because our boy James is doing a lot of work here. So I hope he gets to take some rest because that's a lot of work.
I think they said it was a
so detailed.
4 issue series, I think is what they said it was. But, you know, since we're on the topic of Dark Horse, I feel like last year and a little bit into this year, we saw Boom go fucking insane with what they were publishing.
They literally boomed.
They literally boomed. They had Something Is Killing the Children. We only find them when we're dead.
Once in Future.
7 Secrets. They were popping off with the new indie titles that they were bringing out. I feel like Dark Horse might be it for 2021 because if we look at books like Barbalian, we look at Crimson Flower, Fear Case, Orphan and the Five Beasts. They are publishing some really great content. And I personally always looked at, and I know people in the chat have disagreed with me on this before, when I think Dark Horse, I always thought of them as the licensing shill because they had Star Wars, they had Aliens and Predator. They did a lot of the video game adaptations. So we saw like Dragon Age and Mass Effect and Assassin's Creed and Overwatch and all this other stuff. I mean, yes, they had things like Hellboy and things like that. But
I always think Hellboy.
I always looked at
Dark Horse, I always think Hellboy.
I always looked at them as like the video game and possibly movie licensing shill. And now they're putting out like crazy hits like this. And I'm like, okay, 2020 was Boom. 2021 was Dark Horse.
Yeah,
or is Dark Horse.
I feel like last year, I don't recall a lot of things that I saw from Dark Horse that I'm like, okay, this is really spectacular. I do, when I think of Dark Horse, I think of Hellboy. And now when I think of Dark Horse, I do think of Black Hammer because I think that's a fantastic franchise. One of the books that did come out this week was Lady Baltimore, The Witch Queens. I really love the artwork in this, but I feel like I was missing something with this book. Did you end up reading this one?
I didn't pick it up because I thought that it was a continuation off of something that existed, so I was worried about getting confused, and I'm glad you said that because now it confirms it.
Yeah. I do feel like I was missing something. Maybe I need to go back and just like read. Mike Mignola does it, and I really do I like Mike Mignola's writing and artwork. But I do think that there was a lot going on. If you didn't like Harley Quinn because there was a lot of talk and all of that, then I don't necessarily know if you will like this one. The cover's really pretty though. I do think
it is pretty.
A pretty
gorgeous.
Lady. Bueller says Dark Horse took 6 months to put a book out after shutdown last year. That's really what it felt like. It was like they were not on my radar whatsoever. Is there some inside info there, Bueller? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Bueller is the inside knowledge guy. I do want to get to, someone asked, is there any love, DaCosta asked, no love for Aftershock? I have a lot of love for Aftershock, actually. And I think Bueller also asked about Shadow Doctor. I loved issue number 1 of this. I had seen it in a couple of other Aftershock books, like they gave you like a little couple page preview of Shadow Doctor. And the little preview that we got versus what the book is, so much better. And it follows this man who is a doctor during the Prohibition era. So he's running with like the mafia, and basically like because of the color of his skin, he's not hired as a doctor, which he is a great doctor. So he kind of has to like, I don't want to say scrape by, but he's dealing with like the mafia. And it seems like after this issue, he's going to have a debt he needs to repay. So I think that this has been a really good series so far, even though it's on issue 2. But I have a lot of love for Aftershock. I know some of my favorite titles. I loved Lonely Receiver last year. I Breathed a Body is also fantastic.
We Live, Nuclear Family.
Nuclear Family, oh my goodness.
And that, which I think comes out next week.
Yep, exactly. And then Shadow Doctor, Bueller, your pick of the week. It was a really good book. Do you have any other books?
That is it for my new stuff. I only have all the dumb bitch stuff I picked up and sort of kind of like what I've been reading.
I've got a couple more books here, so I'll go through them pretty quickly. Once in Future by Boom, issue number 17. I know I've talked about this before, but it blows my mind that a series like Die is on issue 15 right now. I think it's got 5 more issues because it's going to end on 20. I feel like I'm ready for Die to end, but I could keep going with Once in Future, which I feel like Die was my favorite of the series, like, or the preferable of the series. But Once in Future is always consistent. Issue number 17, like, we just get to see Gran being a badass, and I think that's my favorite part of this book. And then let me see what else. I'm just going to go ahead and do both of these in one because I picked up 2 Scout comics. I really do love Scout. Special place in my heart for them. But I feel like the stories can be inconsistent, right? Midnight Western Theater was pretty good. I think that you might like this one. Did you pick this one up last week?
I did not.
I kind of feel like you would like this one. Maybe-ish. And then I did pick up Rabbit World, and this wasn't bad, but I feel like I've read it before, so probably won't be picking up issue 2. But I did enjoy what Midnight Western Theater, so curious to see where that goes. And let's see here. The only other one I have Radiant Black issue number 2. It was good, but I feel like I still need more. I'm gonna wait for issue 3.
It's gonna be a trade wait for me if I'm being honest on that one.
I do feel like this one, there's some panels in this one, or pages, that just literally go from 0 to 100. So it's fun, but I do also think that I needed a little bit more originality from this series, and I'm getting a lot of the same superhero stuff, but I do think that this is going to be an excellent trade read here. Comic Burrito, I don't know if I got a chance to say hi to you earlier, but thank you for being here in the chat. Last book I have here, also Boom.
Of course,
it's Dune. I feel like I don't know what to expect with this. Part of me, when I first picked this up, I'm like, you need to know some mythology of Dune before reading this. But I feel like if whenever this Dune iteration ends, because this is like a prequel to the movie, so it does have a lot of that Dune lore. I do feel like this could almost be a precursor to the movie, and you could end up going into the movie knowing a lot more because of this.
Okay. Ooh,
so
good to know.
Yeah. Everyone knows I'm a huge Dune fan. I am a Dune shill. I got my Dooney tattoos. That's I feel like there's a couple other books that I missed, but
that was a lot of stuff because that was 2 weeks worth of comics.
2 weeks, and this upcoming week is a huge.
Oh, this week is huge. This week is absolutely huge.
I'm glad, but I'm also like, there's one title where I just put in my notes, I'm like, all the variants. So we'll see.
All the variants.
So spending that DB money. But you mentioned that you had picked up some trades. What trades did you get?
I did. So I picked up some trades. The first trades I got, and I absolutely, we've talked about these before, these little baby collections. I picked up Unbeatable Squirrel Girl because I have the first issue. I bought the first issue when it released, but I never actually read Squirrel Girl. So I want to read Squirrel Girl, and I love Erica Henderson's art. I also picked up Hawkeye, the Kate Bishop Private Eye.
I picked that one up too.
I've read this book. I've read this before. It's one of my favorites. I love it. But this, I paid less than the cover price, but cover price, this is only $12.99. And it has the entire series of Kate Bishop's Hawkeye. Issues? It is 12 issues in here of goodness. So, like, this is, like, perfect pricing. Like, I usually rag on Marvel for overpricing their trades because I feel like they do. But this is, like, perfect. So, I picked this up for, like, $6. And I was like, you know what? I don't have the Hawkeye books in my collection. I only got them from the library, so I needed these. And like I said, I just really like these little, like, pocket, like, we look at the size of, like, a regular comic. Like, I just really like the little pocket size that they got going on here. So these are really great. They also have them for characters like Ms. Marvel, Miles Morales, other Ironheart. So they tend to do these with the more all ages comics, which I really, really enjoy because they make a perfect gift. I picked this big boy up. Who writes that Kate Hawkeye? It is written by Kelly Thompson.
Yep.
Kelly Thompson. So if you like her work on Captain Marvel, on Black Widow, on Deadpool, you're gonna love this book. I mean, you're gonna love it anyway because it's great.
I do have to say really quick because I also picked up that Hawkeye book. Absolutely loved the let me think. I got one that was kind of like a pocket-sized book of Scarlet Witch and Vision. I picked up Miss Marvel, and I did pick up Strange Academy. This one was $14 just for issues 1 through 6. So it makes me kind of not mad, but I'm glad with
But it's like,
Miss
why?
Marvel. Why? I think it's because this is more of a current series, and so I do think that this is going to be a good pickup, especially because the single issues of this are outrageous right now on the secondary market, but it's been a pretty good story. So Strange Academy, 6-issue little put together book for $13, but you can get Hawkeye, Miss Marvel literally double for $1 less. So
and
there's my pitch.
The Squirrel Girl book only has issues 1 through 8. It's the same price as Hawkeye, but only has issues 1 through 8, and it makes me just like, why? And I know that Squirrel Girl had like went up to what, like issue 50? So
something like that, yeah.
I feel like they only have the first 8 issues in this little book, and then after that they're like, well, you're shit out of luck, kids. So I'm like, sitting on my shelf, it's gonna look weird. So this might be one where I just read it because I picked it up for $5 and then I give it on to a friend or something and then buy the rest so it looks nice on my shelf because I am crazy when it comes to that. But they are just really cute.
I do have the I think a different first volume. I don't remember it being 8 issues, but that series is incredibly cute because she eats nuts and kicks butts. I almost said eats butts. Eats butts, kicks nuts. I'm not going to kink shame.
I mean, yeah, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
This next book I picked up just because of you, and I paid full retail price of $30, which I'm looking at like I'm insane. But then when I started reading it, I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. And that is Thirsty Mermaids. I haven't finished it yet. I'm only about like quarter of the way through because I feel like I'm trying to pace myself with this because I'm like, okay, I spent $30 on this. You're gonna take more than an hour or two to read it. But I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. It's literally a bunch of mermaids that get booze and decide they need more booze, so they go up on land and they're acting really silly, and it's just a lot of fun and really wholesome. Also, the buff shark lady mermaid. Yeah. Ooh, that's just my jam right there. So this is a really fun book. I really like this.
It was really I knew that you would like it because it definitely speaks to that. You'll find a little bit more out, but it definitely speaks to like found family and finding like those like not having your power and then gaining your power back. So it was really, really good. And right now, I got a book and I cannot find it, but let me go. I'm going to go run and grab it really quick. So I'll be like right back. If you want to talk about something like for 2 seconds, I'll be right back.
We're going to talk about something for 2 seconds. I guess I'll show this off because me and Jen already discussed this book. So I guess I'll show it off to you guys. Did a little dollar bin hunting, found this very fun. And I actually had this years ago and then I gave it to a friend. This JLA League of Amazons, which is literally just all of my favorite DC ladies teaming up. It is very dated, very late 90s, early 2000s, but it's still a good time with seeing, all of my favorite girls teaming up. So, and there's Big Bird in it, so that's the whole reason to pick it up in general.
So, Big Barda, Justice League. So I did pick up this book. I haven't started reading it, but I did get this book the other day because of you.
Yay!
I got Blood on the
Tracks. Oh, yeah. That book's gonna make you're gonna scream out loud and you're gonna be like, oh no, 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 no. Also, number 5 comes out, I think, this week. So I'm very excited. I'm gonna make sure I pick up that. Now we got to get you reading Spy Family because Spy Family is my other new favorite manga.
Okay.
It's just a never-ending train.
It
Um,
really is.
So more trades that I picked up. I picked up Legion of Monsters. This is, I believe, a mini series from Marvel. I picked it up for $8, and let's be honest, y'all, I literally only picked it up because it's got my girl Elsa Bloodstone. And I was flipping through it, and I'm like, there's a lot of Elsa Bloodstone in this, and there's Morbius the Vampire, and just other fun monsters, and it seems really witty and really funny. So hopefully this is good. I think the artwork looks really fun. So it was $8, so I picked it up.
Can't beat that. I feel like that's the I mean, granted, like I do end up buying a lot of trades at like, you know, retail value, especially when they come out. But man, getting used trades, like that's just where it's at for me.
It's serotonin. It's instant serotonin. And it's the one thing I miss about comic conventions the most, I think, is being able to go into those like $5 like trade bins and just picking up a bunch of random stuff. I agree. Manga is great. It's really I am right there with you, Comic Burrito, because I dropped $75 in a bookstore the other day, and I only bought manga because it's like diving into indie comics. You know, we really think that when we think manga and anime, we think of like the big ones like Naruto and Inuyasha and, you know, all that. But then you start to kind of dive into it. Like Blood on the Tracks is a great example, and it starts to really open itself up to like an indie genre, you know. So
since you mentioned Naruto, if you take a look at the most popular books right now, Naruto is like right there at the top, and it's one of the reasons why graphic novels and like graphic novels, comic books, and all of that are actually taking up more and more of the market. Like Naruto is like 4 or 5 of the top 10 or 20 books right now. So.
It's insane. So pick this up for $9.50, which I'm really, really excited about. It is Reaver Volume One. So I actually have all of the single issues of Reaver. Really enjoyed issue 1 and 2, and then for whatever reason fell behind and never picked them up. And we all know that I like to read trades. So I was like, for $9.50, I'm gonna pick this up. And a little ASMR sticker pulling here for you, because I'm usually on the receiving end. I messed it up, but you know, there it is. If you haven't been reading Reaver, this is basically an independent version of the Suicide Squad, like a Dungeons and Dragons high fantasy version of Suicide Squad, where it's a bunch of villains that get together and have to pull off this crazy mission. Really, really fun, really great. Really excited to finally read it.
I started reading Reaver and I didn't love it, but since you just said Suicide Squad meets D&D, I'm going to try to go back and read it with that perspective.
Suicide Squad meets D&D. It even has its own knockoff Harley Quinn, which I kind of love to hate.
Oh, it really does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Becky Cloonan does all the covers for that one, right?
I believe so. You might be right on that. You might be right on that. But I did realize, too, that the artist for this is Rebecca Isaacs, who does the artwork for Money Shot over at Bolt Comics. So I think that was kind of interesting that she went from doing a book like this to a book like Money Shot. And then the last one I picked up, and we both picked up this book this week. We Only Find Them When We're Dead. This was $10, y'all, and you get the first five issues. Yes, you get the first 5 issues. So Boom Studios is pulling a bit of an Image Comics where they are doing the first trade for $10, and I'm ridiculously excited about that, because this was a book that I did not love in its first issue, but loved enough where I'm like, I want to read more, and I knew I was going to trade read it. So the fact that it's only $10, I'm like, well, let me just pick that up right away. It's also probably the most gorgeous book of last year.
So Comic Burrito says, don't enjoy that I just added 3 books to my buy list because of you.
Sorry, but hopefully they're good books. Tell me what they are, and I'll tell you if you need to prioritize them.
What books were they? I'm very curious what books those were.
I'm just a wealth of information and knowledge, and a danger to your wallet. That should be my tagline. You know how like they have like that song Maneater where they're like, she's a danger to your wallet because she'll like spend it. I won't spend the money per se. I'll just convince you to spend the money, but not on me. I mean, if you want to spend it on me, you can spend it on me, but not on me.
Yeah. Buy books. You know, it's funny because I feel like if anyone tried to buy me books, I'd be like, please don't. because I feel like I have most of them already. At least all the ones that I want. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and buy whatever I need to. But Hawkeye, Reaver, and they only find them, but I was planning on getting the trade. Oh, sorry.
Those are good ones to pick up, though. I think those are very
Mm-hmm.
good ones to pick up.
Yeah.
You'll have a fun time.
For anyone watching who I would highly recommend if you if you get your books on Amazon, it is what it is. But if you don't feel like you want to give Amazon more of your money, so what's his name can just go buy like another house or whatever. I highly recommend bookshop.org. Because it's like Amazon, but then all of the profits get split up into a pool and money goes to local bookstores and comic book stores. So I would highly recommend bookshop.org. If you don't have a local bookstore, and you can buy online from them. That's pretty much everything that I have today. Do you have anything else?
Not here per se. Yeah, nothing here. That's basically everything. It was a big week.
2 weeks. There are really quick. Let me go ahead and I've got my list for next week coming out.
Well, let me pull mine up.
So what I've got on my list, and mine usually goes by like publisher, just because that's the way that I read it on previews. And then DC I always put last on my list because it's like I have to go to a different site to see DC's books. But next week I've got Crossover 5, Decorum number 7, even though I'm very, very disappointed in
You
Decorum.
just hate yourself, don't you?
I really do. But I love Jonathan Hickman, so Department of Truth number 7. So I'm curious. The last issue was kind of not a wild ride, but it was an interesting like move away from the series. So I'm curious where that's going to go. Philadelphia Volume 2. If you haven't picked up any Philadelphia single issues, I highly recommend it. So the second volume's coming out. Shadecraft, which I know that you are pumped for, right? No, you are? No.
I was very, very excited for it, and then I read a preview copy of it, and now I am less excited for it, but we'll talk more about that next week.
Next week. So like and subscribe for all of our hot takes.
All of our hot takes.
I do have Two Moons number 2 on my list. And that's pretty much it for Image Comics. I've got, and I want everyone to judge me on this because it's amazing. But Transformers My Little Pony trade paperback is coming out, and that was one of my favorite series from last year, unironically. So definitely going to pick that up. I think that I read issue number 1 of Sea of Sorrows and never picked it back up. But Sea of Sorrows issue 4 comes out, and it sounds like it's really good. So
wait, issue 4?
Mm-hmm.
Sea of Sorrows. Why am I thinking Sea of Stars? I was going to say,
yeah, that's on
that
like issue like 14
since,
or something.
Okay, I feel better now. Oh man.
Yeah. I've also got on my list Avengers versus Man-Thing, I think it is, number 1, because I love Monster Boys. I've also got Beta Ray Bill number 1, which is written by Daniel Warren Johnson, who did Wonder Woman Dead Earth.
So okay,
excited for that.
You got me.
And I think that one's going to be a limited series, so if you don't like it, it's not like too much. What else do I have? Black Cat number 4, just for the Bartel variant, the Women's History Month.
Yeah, basically all of the rest of the Bartel variants come out. So we've got the X-Men Emma Frost, we've got the Ghost Rider one, and I don't know who she is, but she's a cute patoot, so I'll pick it up. We got the Black Cat one, and then Silk number 1.
Silk number 1, and Silk's on my list. I'm just have all the variants because I think there's even like a Peach Momoko variant, so I'll be picking that up. King in Black of Valkyries number 4. I think this is the end of the series. Also got Cult of Dracula. I put that one on my list, but I can't remember. So you talk about Cult of Dracula. Why should we be excited for Cult of Dracula?
Cult of Dracula. Hello. I'm hopeful for that one. That was another series that I'm like very, very excited for because it's like Dracula's Brides, and I feel like it might fill the hole in my heart from Dracula Motherfucker that I wanted. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
And this is published by SourcePoint Press, and I've liked everything SourcePoint Press has done, so I'm excited.
With the exception of Eighth Immortal, didn't they do that one, or that was a different one?
Them, or was that Scout?
I think that was SourcePoint.
No. Okay, you keep talking. I'm going to look it up and confirm, because if so, I'm going to get very sad.
Speaking of, some love for Aftershock comics, I do have on my list I Breathed a Body #3, which has just been like insane. Also, I have Nuclear Family #2, another Stephanie Phillips. To the end.
You were right.
I know. I knew it wasn't Scout. So did not like Eighth Immortal. Sorry, which I think Eighth Immortal #3 comes out. They've got some really pretty covers. I'll give it that.
I hated that book.
Sorry. So we'll see. Maybe you'll be like really disappointed.
Stop! I was already disappointed by Eros and Psyche. I need one. Okay.
Was Eros and Psyche, was that SourcePoint?
That was Ablaze.
Ablaze. Okay, I couldn't remember which that one was. We're also from Mad Cave getting the end of Terminal Punks, which has been one of my favorite, another favorite series this year. And also, okay, I know you're excited about this one, Witchblood.
Oh, y'all, Witchblood is so good, and y'all are going to need to run out to your shops to get this, because it has already gone to second printing, and it's not even out yet. So if you want fun witches, road trips, and just punky, badass, vibrant vibes from Lisa Sturl, just listen, this is a fun book. I already added it to my pool list, so y'all know how I feel about it. Pick this one up. And it's Volt Comics. And Volt Comics is 2 for 2 this year with Hollow Heart and Witchblood. So
yeah. Really excited. All I have here is Witchblood #1, all the variants. So know, like, it's going to be a big week next week. The only other 2 that I have is DC, and it's The Other History of the DC Universe #3, and then Sensational Wonder Woman #13.
I have Batman Catwoman #4 on my list, and I feel like that has just been I love Tom King. I love Batman and Catwoman, but at this point, I'm hate reading the hell out of it.
I think that I didn't add it to my list. I'll probably end up picking it up. I do think that Tom King's writing reads better in trade, so I am still probably going to pick up Batman Catwoman in trade, just to see if I like it better.
You basically hit the nail on the head with most of what I'm not picking up everything you're picking up because you're crazy, but you hit all of my points with Nuclear Family and crossover and Call of Dracula and things like that. The only thing that you didn't mention that I have, and I'm not even going to read it, so it's like, why am I buying it? But it is Strange Adventures #9.
6? Oh, #9.
Number 9. I've got 3 more issues to go. I stopped reading Strange Adventures at about issue 5 because I had fallen behind, read 3 in a bunch, and was like, oh, I really love this story. But then reading it issue to issue, I'm like, I really hate this story. So at this point, I'm waiting to get all 12, and then I will just read it all together. And I'm like, you dumb bitch, you could have just spent $25 and got a trade when it came out 6 months after it was finished. But I'm a Tom King show. I got to support my boy Tom. So I won't hate read it, but I'll just let it sit and compile.
It's so funny. Hi, Real Rude. So I feel I like Tom King as a trade read better. I think the same thing happened to me where I ended up getting like issues 1 through 5, and sorry, my cat is writing now. It's the writing point of the show. He really is. So I ended up picking up issues like 1 through 5, ended up missing number 6, and then I picked up 7, and then I'm like, I was still confused, so I'm probably not going to pick up any more single issues and just wait for the trade at this point.
Sounds like a good call.
Yeah. So I think that's going to bring us to the end of the show. It was a really good show. There were so many people in the chat, and like the chat was so active, and I want to say, like, I appreciate all of you so stinking much. So thank you everyone for being here. If you haven't already, go sub up Mars. I did post link in the comments, and I think that I did pin. I'm going to do it one more time. So everyone go follow Mars on her channel. You've got some exciting things working.
I have a very exciting thing that I am filming today, actually, and that is mostly in part due to Jen inspiring me. So, we got the first trailer for Suicide Squad, which has me extremely excited because I am a huge Suicide Squad fan. However, I don't know a lot of Suicide Squad characters in this one, despite knowing a lot of DC. I am the DC shill. So I did some research and I'm going to do a little who's who of the Suicide Squad. It's really just an excuse for me to rant about King Shark, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But in my research, because, you know, I'm a big dumb nerd and I sent Jen all of my notes, there's a lot of Nazism going on in the Suicide Squad cast. So it's going to be really fun to break down these characters because some of them are bonkers, y'all. So stay tuned for that.
It's so funny because obviously the Suicide Squad trailer dropped, and I'm like, I really enjoyed it, and we were discussing it, and I'm like, I would love to see you do a breakdown of the Suicide Squad characters, because you had even mentioned like on your Instagram stories about King Shark, and I'm like, I want to know like all your knowledge about these characters. And you're like, I really don't know much about the characters. And then you're like, well, I'm going to try to do a video. I'm going to do a little bit of research. And then a couple hours later, I get this like huge pages long.
It's 3 pages of notes, y'all. 3 pages.
It was incredible. So, you know, I'm very excited for your video. So everyone, please go subscribe to Mars's channel. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe here. That's optional.
Always optional. But we are here every Sunday, sometimes in the morning, sometimes at night, depending on Jen's lovely schedule.
Yeah. I'm going to say, hi, Nicole. I love you. I miss you. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to eat some breakfast before I go to work. But it was lovely being here. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see you, friends, next week. Bye.
Bye.